beyond, like, it's, sort of creating a space, but what are sort of the goals? Because space is one way to achieve a goal.
Right.
But anyway.
Yep. All right, so I'll get you to start by telling us a bit about what you do for a living and for recreation, including any artistic and cultural activities you partake of.
What do I do for a living?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I am currently I'm a community developer, and I work in for the last number of years. I worked in the social services sector,
right?
Working with different sectors of communities to identify and address particular issues. I am currently working with a number of organizations in Southeast Vancouver addressing the health and safety of the community with respect to sex work.
Wow.
And working with another neighborhood to begin that process. So the organizations involved would be not-for-profit organizations,
mm-hmm.
public sector, as well as residents.
God, that's intense work.
What's that?
That's intense work.
It's good, actually. I had a really funny. This has nothing to do with the plan. This is the funny aside.
Okay.
I had a call from the city today, the social planner at the city of Vancouver, and who's the liaison, sex worker liaison position, and so we were yapping about stuff and some planning stuff because there's some huge issues happening in Southeast Vancouver in terms of resident concerns, so I said, just between you and me, I'm probably going to be leaving my job in the next couple of months because I've been doing it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And she just kind of went, "Oh my God," and she said, "Why?" And I said, and I gave her different reasons, and I said, and another significant reason is that I'll never the thought of filling out one of the city's grant applications again. I want to slash my wrists at the thought of that.
Yeah.
So she said to me at the end, she said, "So if we created a grant application just for you that was only one page, would you reconsider?"
That's great.
Anyway, that's what I do. That's what I'm currently doing.
Mm-hmm. And for recreation and cultural and artistic
So
activities?
recreationally, I go to fitness classes, I hike, I snowshoe, and walk. I love to walk.
Mm-hmm.
Used to swim, but less and less so. I'm much more of a feet on the ground kind of person now. So those are the main things. I like camping. I love camping.
Mm-hmm.
And culturally, I go to a lot of film, theater, some music. I read.
Right.
Writers' Festival, all that stuff. And I, paint and draw in my own.
Mm-hmm.
In my own free time. Go to art shows and things, like I go to galleries and as well.
Never aspired to. Have you actually entered one of the exhibits?
I actually had a show, shared show a couple of years ago at the gallery.
All right. So you're kind of a professional artist as well.
Not really, but it was fun.
Great. Can you tell us a story of one of your most memorable artistic or cultural experiences on Bowen, either as a performer, artist, or as an observer?
Well, I would say probably doing that the show, which I did with another person, was probably the most memorable for both. And I'm not going to go into details, but for both good reasons and also for traumatic bad reasons.
Mm-hmm. So, which show was this?
I think it was probably before your time.
Mm-hmm.
On the island. I don't know how long you've lived.
6 years.
Oh, you may have been around. Did you go to the gallery regularly?
Mm-hmm.
So this was a show that I can't remember how long ago it was. Maybe 3 years ago. And it was a shared show. So I was doing it with a friend who is no longer on the island, and she worked in fabric quilts and I worked with mostly acrylic, and we did these sort of shared things. So she would be working on a sort of a piece with fabric or some sculpture, 3-dimensional, and then I would do these pieces in response to what she was doing.
All right, yeah.
So,
Fun. But it was traumatic as well, was it?
well, let's see.
Okay.
Let's say that she went through some emotional trauma that impacted all of us. It was actually the very first show that Janet Asifa had to curate.
Oh, really?
As the new
Wow.
curator. Yes. So yes, we all remember it. We all
fire.
remember that very, very well. And it also led to their need to identify new rules for shows because she was a little difficult.
All right. When you are at your most creative, what are you doing?
When I'm at my most creative, well, I have to say, probably my most creative is when I'm presented with challenges, and they could be part of my job. How do you make such and such a happen? Here's what you have to work with.
Right.
Or I'm given a task, a challenge and a task. You know, here's a like I did all of the flower arrangements for someone's memorial, and you know, so I had, you know, I had a deadline, and so I seem to perform best when I've got when I have some kind of end line, and then all the creative juices just kick in. I'm motivated.
Great. So you have been on Bowen how long?
8 years.
8 years.
I think, I don't know, 8 or 9 years. I'm really not good with remembering dates.
I guess that qualifies you as a veteran.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. I still am a newbie.
Yeah, I was surprised that Ron said he'd only been on the island for 13 or 14 years. It seems like
he's been here forever.
He's been here forever.
Yeah, I know.
Some people just kind of put down roots faster than others.
They do.
Guess.
I'm more of a.
So, what brought you to Bowen Island?
We were living in town. So we had a place on Hornby, and we had a condo in Yaletown. And my husband decided he did not want to be in Yaletown. He missed having a garden, and so we started looking for a community that was accessible to the city, but provided a sort of a somewhat sense of rural. And so we sold our condo, we sold our place in Hornby, and we sort of merged those two elements.
If you had to leave, what would you miss?
Clean air, quiet. Although I love urban, but I do appreciate I certainly appreciate the air. I miss the walks. Although I do prefer actually, I mean, it's beautiful. Look what I'm looking at right now as I talk.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate that beauty. I love it. But yeah, I'm kind of I'd miss that. But I love city, and I love the hustle and bustle, and I love being able to walk everywhere in the city. Whereas I find that living out here you're a bit car dependent. Yeah.
Yeah. What's changed the most since you arrived?
What's changed? I've gotten older.
That never changes.
I don't know. What changes? Life just goes on. Life is all about change.
What's changed in the community? Is the vibe
of
the
change
community?
in the community. No. Nothing's changed in the community. But here's what changes. And it's the same whether you're living in a community. I mean, it's a small community, right? So stuff's going to happen in small communities that may or may not happen in bigger centers or neighborhoods.
Yeah.
You know people's business, and people are involved in a variety of different things. So you have challenges if you have to be careful not to get, ticked off with somebody on one thing when you're going to be bumping into them on the ferry. You have to be really careful. But I think with any community or job, is that when you first start or anything, or you move to some place and you don't know the history, you don't know the politics of groups, you don't know their historical ins and outs and fights and whatever.
Yep.
It's all new, and so and then the longer you stay at a place, you start to, all of this stuff, you start to learn about sort of dynamics and who gets along with who and what groups have had issues with other groups. And so you just are more aware. And you may or may not like that.
So sometimes ignorance is bliss. Yeah.
Well, that is exactly right. Ignorance is bliss. I've always said, I think I've lasted in jobs maximum 3 to 5 years, most jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the ignorance is no longer, I know too much. And I, and the politics, I'm fed up with the politics of place or group, and I leave. So,
yeah.
That's the difference,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting.
Does that make sense?
It does. It is. And what's interesting to me, there's been kind of an arc when I've asked this question of other people over the last few months, is that the first group of people I talked to generally talked about significant shifts in Bowen Island. And more recently, the people I've talked to have said, really, nothing ever changes on Bowen Island.
Well, community is community.
Exactly.
I mean, well, I guess it's really how you define change. Is paving a road that was unpaved before change?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, maybe,
Yep.
I guess there's an increasing awareness of environmental stuff, but I'm not sure. I don't think that my sense is that, just in sort of awareness, is, things is that the issues that Bowen deals with are similar to other island communities around that balance between development and preservation, and I don't know. Anyway.
All right. What's holding you back from participating in or attending more creative and artistic activities? Other than the fact the last damn ferry leaves at 9:30.
Oh, you mean like in town or on the island?
Yeah, either one. Yeah.
Yeah, probably just my own schedule. I mean, we have a lot of commitments. Life is, busy. I've got, a father who's elderly in Victoria. I've got, my daughter. I mean, work. Other volunteer commitments on the island. You can get overextended. Here's the thing with a lot of people is that if you look at committees, people serve on 2 or 3 or 4 committees. I think sometimes they get spread a little thin, and so then you don't have that flexibility or free time to do other stuff.
And it's the same people that get roped into all of these things. So,
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
That was funny the other day. I've recently taken on the role on the Heritage Commission, and I got a note the other day thanking me for volunteering to be on the library foundation.
Yeah, well, that was I'm on the library board, so I understand about that.
Yeah.
And that was a name that was passed on to us. That wasn't.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I understand exactly how it happened, and it was an honest. An honest thing. And I think I probably will end up doing it because I worked in knowledge management for 10 years. So I've got lots of ideas.
It's mostly just to ensure that bridge with the BIAC around and its development, because all the funding is going to go through them.
Yeah. When you think of arts and culture on Bowen, what person or place comes first to mind?
Arts and culture? I think BIAC.
Do you think we have a cultural icon, a person that kind of...
Jackie. I mean, obviously I'm going to be very familiar with her. Others might not be as familiar with her, but
her name's come up a lot.
Her name comes up a lot, yeah. I mean, she's like, but it's always a concern when so much of that rests on one person.
For sure. Culturally, what do you think most differentiates us from Vancouver?
Culturally? Well, no, a lot less options. But, the thing is, I mean, we don't have to do it. I mean, this is one of the criticism of arts in Vancouver. And it was a huge criticism of the gallery, and I know people that work at BAG and stuff, is that it's a very exclusive club, and I think that what Bowen offers is the opportunity for for community to be engaged
Yeah.
in the arts, both as participants as well as consumers or enjoyers of.
Right.
Instead of art by the people for the people. Oh my gosh.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
you're not sort of as much. So that doesn't. And you see that in other small communities as well. It's not unique, but it's
Yeah.
unique to small communities.
But it is interesting the number of people who've kind of said that they find going into even the gallery on Bowen Island a somewhat intimidating experience.
Really?
Yeah. The city of Nanaimo has a cultural plan. And absolutely fascinating me. And one of their core statements in their cultural plan is, our culture is outdoors.
Mm.
And if you ask them to list all of the cultural activities they're involved with,
Mm-hmm.
almost all of them are outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
And we're pursuing this now because BIAC is considering a fairly significant shift towards more public art, which will be
public art,
which will be primarily outdoors. And it's just
course.
like, there are some people who find.
Oh, I agree. I think I think community aesthetic is critical, and I don't really have a strong sense of community aesthetic here.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
I like stuff where there's a lot of street art. I like art on the sides of buildings,
Right.
But, anyway, sorry.
No, that's fine. Is there, if you had more time, is there a particular type of artistic or cultural activity you'd like to learn more about?
You mean classes-wise?
Classes-wise, or just peer-to-peer, just getting together with a bunch of other people who are interested in saying, let's play around with this.
I don't know at this point. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing jumps to mind.
Well, I guess what would be fun, although my husband said it would be like very worrying. But if I was when I was in San Miguel, I was really seriously kind of thinking I would have loved to have done a metalwork class.
Mm-hmm.
And done some three-dimensional sort of. I like the idea of these three-dimensional gigantic creations. I like pop-up art. Like where sort of one day there's nothing there, and the next day somebody has created something and stuck it up.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. Believe it or not, you're the third person that's mentioned they want to work on stuff that's really big.
Yeah, just to make a statement.
You've got the space.
I think we want to challenge these big trees.
Yeah. That's great. And final question then is have you other thoughts about Bowen's artistic and cultural needs, opportunities, ideas that you'd like to throw out there?
Well, I think about that community aesthetic, and but I think that, there's that, I think there's just lots of fun ways that we could think about creating opportunities to create interesting spaces, but I think also, I do like it when it's a bit rogue, and people just do it.
Right.
But I also think that particularly with public art, where and I think the rogue stuff it evolves. You can't manage that. You can't plan for that. But
mm-hmm.
You have to. But creating spaces for it. There's no youth culture vibe here. It's all very middle-aged to senior kind of sensibility.
Mostly the latter.
Mostly the latter, yeah. And I think that we miss out on something when we don't when the youth aren't involved in creating when there isn't stuff happening.
Our transition group is doing something that I think you'll find interesting in that line.
Yeah.
This summer we're bringing the Mud Girls over, and we're going to make a market stand and bus shelter on the Grafton lands,
Yeah.
entirely out of co-op, and we're going to learn
That's
how to do
fantastic.
it. And the kids are
Yeah.
going to be involved.
That's
so it's gonna be
fantastic.
fun.
So, and I think that, you know, those stuff, that's not stuff you can plan for. I mean, you do it over time,
Yeah.
you know?
You can't plan for it, but you can get the obstacles out of the way because,
Absolutely.
you know, if there's zoning restrictions and stuff and, you know.
That's why I like the rogue stuff but then it
Yeah.
often comes down.
That's true. That's true.
But then in terms of public art, where there's more a conscious effort to do something with spaces, and I think then there has to be a really clear process to ensure artistic merit,
Mm-hmm.
and not have junk going up.
Yeah.
Because you're stuck with it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's costly.
Yeah.
So that's I like both of those kinds of things. But.
Right. Yeah, I'm quite intrigued by this idea of working BIAC and Heritage and the school working together to create kind of a timeline of Bowen's history along the Cross Island Trail, and have maybe some of Ron's painted black and whites on display there. And then we've talked to Sarah Hexby already, who's quite enthused about that idea. The kids would come out and they would learn a little bit about history and say, you know, there used to be a mine there. Mm-hmm. And here are some of the horrible things that happened there. And then inspire the kids to draw or paint or make other art around something that's in Bowen's history. Because we know almost nothing about our history.
No, we don't.
Yeah. We
don't. And I think that Jack that was saying something about that. Generally, people aren't interested.
That's true. You have to engage people, and that's a key part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the end of the questions.
We're done?
Thank you very much for your time.
You're
today.
welcome.